So there are two formats that we can shoot films in today, naming the digital format and the film format. Now, film format gives us this very unique soft look with grain and elation and blooming, and digital is a much more sharper, precise look. So it's an art director's choice if he's going to shoot in a film or a digital format, as both of these offer their unique features. So today we are still trying to find the best medium, and the answer would typically be something in between digital and film formats. So filmmakers today have been trying to recreate film looks for digital format, and today we will be looking at how we can achieve that. So recreating these looks takes years of knowledge in terms of how film is developed, how it works, what unique features it offers to recreate them, and that obviously goes with a lot of analysis work. So it is possible to recreate these looks in DaVinci Resolve, but today we are looking at a plugin from Dehancer who have done all this research and analysis for us on how film works. This makes it for us as editors much easier to develop a film look. Okay, let's jump right in. So since we want to test the capabilities of the Dehancer plugin, we're not going to do a lot for a node tree. I've set up a very basic node tree just to color correct our footage. Then we're going to do the complete look in the Dehancer plugin. So if you have a look at our node tree, we've got a simple input device transform and output device transform. This is where we tell DaVinci Resolve we shot in a Canon camera using C-Log 3, and we want to output this into a DaVinci wide gamut color space. This is the color space we're going to edit in, and then the same with the output device transform, the color space we edited in, and the output we want in Rec 709 Gamma 2.4. So this footage looked a little bit bright for me, so I used our primaries just to reduce the overall exposure a little bit. Use the balance node, and this balance node I only played with the temperature just to take away a little bit of that warm feeling. And the last thing I did is using an S-curve, I compressed the whites and the blacks a bit. That gives us this very unique film look. Okay, so what we're going to do now, let me just minimize our scopes. Let's do a serial node, and this is where we're going to do Dehancer, and then add Dehancer Pro 7, which is what we're going to use to this node. So straight off the bat, you'll see that it has some default values, and look at what it does for our footage. But we are going to disable all of this, just so that we can go through each step to see what the effects of each tab is. I think there's another one here. Let's just make sure everything is disabled. Okay, awesome. Let's start from the top. So by default, Dehancer uses Rec 709 as an input, but there are some alternative options here, but we are just going to use Rec 709. So here we can also play around with our temperature and our tint. Our tint, we're going to leave it out for now. We have some difference options here, and we have some exposure options here. Now, since I already fixed the exposure previously, we are not going to touch on this at all. Okay, so this is where it really gets interesting. Now we're going to tell this plugin it needs to recreate a look based on what camera we shot this on. So if I enable this, you can immediately see what effect it has. And there are several options you can choose from. This is the type of film camera that we shot this footage on. So I'm going to say they need to recreate something like, I really like Kodak Aero Color 4, this 125. This is a look that I really like. So just to do a before and after. So this is really a look that I like. You can play around with this, see to what point you like or what effect you like, specifically to your taste. I really like this Kodak Aero Color. I'm going to stick with this. I'm not going to do anything on the push or pull. Yeah, this is where the magic happens, guys. Next, we're going to look at film compression, and let's just enable this. So this is where we can play around. And if you look specifically at your whites area here, if I enable this, this is where you essentially crush or compress your brighter or white areas. And if we play around a little bit with this, you can really see the effect that this has on your footage. So it's known for film to have this effect on your whites. You never have bright whites. You also never have your really dark, or let's call it clipped blacks. So this is part of the effect that I did here in this look node. But play around with this, see at what point it looks good. It's especially good with outside lighting. I'm just gonna play around with this and see what I like. This makes a really good impression on giving you that film look when it comes to your blacker white areas. So under the expand tab, this does the same for the black point. So let's have a look. Let's just first enable this. So generally your film gives you a really dark look, so I'm going to increase this a little bit and then decrease our whites. Let's go over there. So just the before and after. Awesome. So this essentially creates a little bit of contrast in your footage. I'm not going to play around with this color mode. You got normal and luma. So let's have a look at the next tab, which is print. So under the profile, we've got some pre-set up profiles over here, just to show you the effects that it can have. But we're going to stick with linear for now, and then see what we can do on the tonal contrast. So if you have a look at his shirt and his arm for the colors, I'm going to increase the tonal contrast just a little bit slightly, and then let me just show you what this color density does to look at the color of his skin here on his arm. There you can see it really increases that saturation on the arms. So when it comes to skin colors with film, generally speaking, they have this very, very vibrant color to the skin. So we're going to increase this and keep our saturation quite high. It's 100% by default for this plugin, but we're going to leave it there for now. So now this next tab, we can play a little bit around with colors. So film generally gives you a little bit of this green effect. Let's first enable this, reset that. So I'm just gonna add a little bit of green to this node. So let's see what it looks like. So you can see we've done a very small adjustment here, but it really does make a very dramatic effect overall. So now we're getting to the interesting parts again. Film grain. Everyone knows what film grain is. Now Dehancer Pro has a really unique film grain look to it. They recently upgraded this from the Pro version 5. So that you have some presets over here. I'm going to go with something that is not so much big of an impact. I'm going to go with the 65mm ISO 250. So you have some film grain. Let's just scroll around a bit so that you can see the effects. Yeah, especially if you look at this area over here, you can see if I play around with it, what effect it has. So that's what I like. This is up to personal preference. For this shot, I'm going to stick with the 65mm grain. Now we're going to go to halation, and I want you to have a look at his shoulder over here. I'm going to enable this. Let's first change it to 16mm. So have a look at his shoulder and see what this does if I enable this. So you can see, especially with the hairline here over as well, I'm going to enable and disable it so that you can see the effect. So there you go. Halation is something that we get with film, especially around your brighter areas, especially around your lights. So if you have some lights in the background, you can see this red effect that it has around the lights, which is very unique to film. Something that we came to love over the years. We don't really notice this when we're watching film, but now that you know this, every time you're going to watch a film, you'll see the effect for this. So I'm not going to stick with 16mm. I'm going to with something that's a little bit softer. I'm going to a 35mm. So much less of the effect, but it's still visible. And you'll see overall it gives this footage a little bit of a red effect. So we can go back to our color and compensate for it. But I'm just going to stick with this for now. The next interesting one is blooming. So this gives your footage a soft effect. And all your highlights, it has this really nice bloom effect. Again, I'm going to switch this to 16mm just so that you can see the effect, and you'll see this effect all around the brighter areas. So if I enable this, you can see what it does. It gives this really nice glow effect. Again, I'm going to go to a little bit softer effects, 35mm, super 35. So let me just enable this again, and you'll see this effect that it has. Awesome. The next thing that's also great from this plugin that they present to us is a film damage, a film breath, and a gate weave. I'm going to do a little bit of a layover just to illustrate to you. So film damage, it gives you this effect that with the rolling shutter we have each development having a unique type of damage to it. And then with film breath, you get this effect of a little bit of a color difference between each frame. And then with gate weave, you get this kind of a camera shaking effect that we find with film. Lastly, everyone knows what a vignette is. I'm going to enable this. I'm going to play around a little bit with the exposure and the size. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller, a bit bigger actually. And then I'm going to reduce the feather and the aspect ratio. Okay, so before and after. So this just puts focus on your subject. Okay guys, that's basically what we've done to create this film look. So let's just have a quick look at the before and after. And that's everything we've done with just a single plugin. So lastly, what we can do is we can go to the output node and just state how much of this impact we want on our footage. So you can play around with this. So there's essentially 0 impact and 100% impact. So since we edited this footage to give us this film look, I'm going to keep it at 100%. And let's run through each and every node now to see what we've done. So to start from the first point, we've added an input device transform and an output device transform just to transform our footage. Then we've reduced the exposure with our primaries. We've done some balancing to take out a little bit of that warmth. We've added an S-curve to give us a little bit closer to a film look, so we're crushing our whites or compressing our whites and compressing our blacks. And lastly, we've done our complete look using this Dehancer Pro 7 plugin. Now as you can see guys, this Dehancer Pro plugin is really a powerful plugin. In fact, it's so powerful that you really need a beefy computer to be able to play through this. Just to give an example of how laggy this would be. So typically what I would do is I would go to a playback and then just put on a timeline proxy mode, half or quarter. And then what you can also do is go to your render cache and make it smart. So even with that on, it's quite intensive on my computer's resources. So that's a little bit of a downside on this Dehancer Pro app, but in actual fact, it's really a powerful plugin. Okay guys, so that is it for the plugin for DaVinci Resolve, and we can see how extremely powerful this plugin is to give you that specific film look. So Dehancer has given us something else as well, and that is a plugin for your cell phone, where you can edit your videos or even photos directly from your cell phone to give you that film look. Now again, the same as the plugin for DaVinci Resolve, this is quite resource intensive, so you need to have a relatively new beefy cell phone to handle this application. The editing part not so much, but the playback again is going to be quite slow. So this application offers everything exactly the same as what the plugin in the Dehancer did, with the additional options of editing photos. Under your source, you've got your exposure compensation, temperature compensation, tint, defringe. You've got your different film looks, the same as the plugin DaVinci Resolve. Color boost, gamma correction, color separation. Under compression, you've got your impact, white point, tonal range, color densities. It's basically exactly the same as the plugins you have for DaVinci Resolve. Very refined app, I must say. I wouldn't know why I would use this personally, seeing that this is such a detailed, very specific market in terms of creating films. I don't know if I would typically edit photos or videos for, let's say, social media using this app, but that's just my opinion, my preference. It might be different for you, so I definitely recommend you to check it out if this is something that you're into. If this plugin is something that you want to try out, I'll leave you a promotion code in the description of this video where you can go to Dehancer and they'll give you 10% discount if you use this code. Okay guys, that's it for me. If this film look is something that you liked, please consider liking this video. Go check out their application. Thank you guys for watching, and we will see you in the next video.